Picture this scenario. You have a credit card with a $5,000 limit. You spend $2,000 on furniture. You have the cash in the bank, and you plan to pay it off completely. You wait for the bill to arrive, and the moment it hits your inbox, you pay the full balance. You pay zero interest. You are a responsible borrower. And yet, 3 days later, you get an alert on your phone. Your credit score just dropped 25 points. You did everything right, but the algorithm punished you anyway. This happens to thousands of people every single month, and it is usually because of a fundamental misunderstanding of one specific date on the calendar. The bank isn't broken, it's just taking a picture of you at the wrong time, and you probably don't even know where the camera is. Today, I'm going to show you how the bank actually checks your money. Moving your payment by just 2 days can be the difference between a meh score and a great one. We're going to talk about the bank's camera and why they report old news instead of what's happening right now. We'll look at the 30% rule to see why your debt-to-limit math is the fastest way to change your score. And finally, we'll talk about the ghost problem, why having a $0 balance might actually be hurting you. Once you learn how to control the timing, you stop being a victim of the computer and start being the boss of it. The credit score system isn't a movie, it's a bunch of photos. Imagine a photographer who shows up to take a picture of your house right when it's a mess, even though you plan to clean it 2 days later. That's how credit cards work. Your due date is when you have to pay to avoid fees, but your statement date is when the bank takes the picture and sends it to the credit companies. Whatever balance is on your bill on that specific day is what the world sees. You might pay it off perfectly 10 days later, but the picture already shows you have a lot of debt. To the computer, it looks like you're maxing out your cards even if your bank account is full of cash. You are living in today, but your credit score is stuck on a photo from 2 weeks ago. Paying by the due date stops you from losing money, but paying before the photo date is what actually saves your credit score. If you want to move your score fast, you have to understand one thing: utilization. This is just a fancy word for how much of your limit are you using. It makes up 30% of your total score. It's simple math. If you have a $1,000 limit and you spend $500, you're using 50%. The computer hates this. It wants you to stay under 30% to look safe and under 10% to look perfect. The good news, this part of your score has no memory. A late payment stays on your record for 7 years, but this math resets every single month. If your score dropped in January because you bought a big TV, it will bounce right back in February if you pay it down. You can literally rewrite this part of your financial history every 30 days. This is the only part of your past that you can fix in a single month just by changing your timing. You might think that having $0 on your bill is perfect, but if you show $0 every single month on every card, the computer thinks you're a ghost. It can't see how you handle debt if you never show any. In the eyes of the bank, being invisible is actually a little bit risky. They want to see that you can use the card and pay it off. To get the highest score, you want to stay in the sweet spot. This is usually between 1 and 7%. There's a trick called AZEO, which stands for all zero except one. You pay all your cards to zero before the photo date, but leave one card with a tiny balance, like $10. This tells the computer, yes, I'm using credit, but I'm doing a great job keeping it low. There's a tiny gap between broke and invisible, and that's exactly where the winners with the 800 scores live. To do this, you have to stop relying on autopay. Autopay is only there to make sure you're not late. It doesn't care about your score. First, find the date. Look at your old PDF bills and find the statement closing date. Then, set a timer for 3 days before that date. Pay early. Log in on that day and pay your bill down to almost zero. Leave about $10. When the bank takes the picture 3 days later, they see a tiny balance and report that to the world. You look amazing on paper. Then, a few weeks later on your actual due date, you pay off that last $10 so you don't owe any interest. You're basically picking which photo the bank gets to see. You are finally in control of your own financial resume. making sure the bank only sees you at your best. Don't try to cheat by doing something called credit cycling. This is when you spend your whole limit, pay it off, and spend it again in the same month. To a bank, this looks like you're doing something illegal or that you're about to go broke. It's a huge red flag. If you're always hitting your limit, don't use a trick, just ask the bank for a higher limit. A bigger limit makes your math look better without you doing any extra work. Also, never close old cards just to be simple. Your score depends on how much total room you have. If you close a card with a $5,000 limit, you just made your total room smaller. Even if you don't spend more money, your percentage will go up because you have less space. Keep those old cards open, buy one coffee a month on them, and let them help your score stay high. Closing an old card is like throwing away a shield right before you go into a battle for a house loan. The banking system is built on rules. Most people only learn the rules about fees, but the rules about data are just as important. By taking control of the photo, you stop being a victim of the system and start being the manager of it. Try this for just 1 month. Find your date, pay early, and watch your score move. When you see that score jump, you'll realize the game isn't rigged. You just finally learned how to play. Master the photo, build the wedge. I'll see you at the 800.
Mark